laptop with me. So
Yeah. Well, let's back up a little bit. Get on the.
I did legs. I'm really glad we're doing sitting techniques today.
Yeah, that's right. Get more centered. All right. Well, no one's on right now, so let's just make conversation while we're waiting.
Actually, I want to make fun of Lauren. I'm like, if you're not, because she actually did say she was going to come through if it wasn't raining, and now she's not here, so I'm going to say you better be watching.
she usually watches, so I'd be surprised. Let's see if the new girl comes and watches.
Oh, do you watch the podcast with Jamie? Oh, you said you
listened to it. Right? Yeah, I had listened to it before. It was good.
Yeah, I listened to the first half. It was really good.
Yeah, it's getting good. I think we got Emily Kwok coming up next week, I believe. Don't quote me on that one.
That'd be awesome if you get Jamie in here to show a few moves with you.
Yeah,
that'd be really cool.
I would love to get Jamie to come and show some stuff. It was actually really cool listening to him talk about old school stuff. And also, I love his perspective on jiu-jitsu in general. He's very old school.
Yeah, although I was kind of surprised he allows heel hooks in the gi.
Yeah, I think I guess so. But I think he's just kind of like old school in that, like, just whatever, you should be ready for it anyway. Yeah, that was kind of my argument too. Like I don't think you should train all the time with it just because in competition you can't, and I don't want everyone getting into those bad habits.
Yeah.
We want to...
Because you could be winning like 12-0 and then you make one stupid mistake.
Yeah, but you should always be ready to defend against the heel hook.
Yeah, I'm an expert in winning by disqualification, so...
One of the open mats at Pure, I was rolling with a visiting black belt, and he was putting me in honey hole and stuff like that. And then afterwards, that told me, he's like, "Oh, is that okay?" I'm like, "I'm okay, man."
Yeah. Physically, yes, but mentally and emotionally, I don't know if I'll recover.
Now I might have to pressure pass you to death.
Dude, speaking of pressure passing, I'm getting very hyped for this Ed versus Dave match every time I listen to one of their episodes. I want to get a bet line go. Yeah, we should do a bet line.
I know. That would be. Imagine more people start turning on Ed and because of his overconfidence.
I don't know. I feel like that might be Ed's hubris. He might sink himself because he's so confident in his weight advantage.
What's funny is I was on Instagram today, and Dave was made a post or something, and who made a comment trash talking, but Ed's wife Megan.
Really?
She never thought, since she's just basically saying all the things that Ed says. It's gonna be a short match, 10 seconds, he's gonna tap you out. I was like, whoa.
It was Ed on her account.
It probably was, actually. I didn't think of that. Awesome.
I love how convinced they are that you're the ref. They're like, no, Yanni's reffing.
It changes every week. All right, let me see. I should be. Yeah, this is more centered. Let's go start in half guard here. So before we go into our, come over here because it looks like we'll be more centered. Before we go into our standard reverse half guard, so reverse half guard is where you're actually facing the opposite direction when you back step. We're gonna do a switch hips. It's almost like a reverse half guard, but the concept is the same. Okay, so maybe Greg has a good frame on me here, so I turn my body this way and put my elbow right next to his hip. This way it's hard for him to shrimp out. Now what I'm gonna do is I stretch my leg and I drop my hip down. Anytime I'm in this position, and then in reverse half guard as well, which we'll go over in a minute, I have to start backing up. All right? He wants to keep me down low because he wants to eventually get his elbows and knees to touch. So what I want to do is open his arms up by backing up. So I bring my elbow back and then I back my hips up. I like using my hand framed on his knee, or sometimes I can underhook his leg to make sure he's not going to be shrimping out and stuff. But sometimes, if I know the person is locking their legs really super tight, I'll just hold his legs in place and then I back up and then get really high on him. As you see right now, my elbow is past his shoulder, and I'm going to try to get my inside leg in front of his thigh, all right? So my shin is actually right in front of his thigh right over here. Boom. Now I use this leg to kick his leg away as I pull my leg out. And then from here, I'll block my hand to block him from recovering guard, and then I go to my knees. Then I look for his head, and I secure the position. So it's not, technically it's not reverse half guard, it's just a standard half guard, but we're using all the reverse half guard concepts here. So he may be framed against me right over here. So I'm just gonna bring my arm all the way across his hip, and then I stretch my leg and turn my hip this way. And I come right here. I'm using my hand to push, and I start opening the elbow and then bringing my hips back. Then I open, bring my hips back, then I put my shin in front of his thigh to make sure that he cannot re-guard. Like, he wants to get his legs as high on my leg as possible. Once I put this leg in front, I can start pushing him down low on my foot. I kick my leg free. I take my hand right here, blocking his hips, and then I come right underneath his head and secure it. So that's going to be the first technique that I wanted to go over, because that's a good way. Like, everyone knows to get that underhook, and that's like a common thing. But sometimes switching your base, knowing how to be like heavy on one side and playing like this while keeping the person pinned, is a very important concept right there. Now we'll talk about the reverse half guard. So reverse half guard is any time I'm basically on the opposite side of a regular half guard. And it's usually to counter an underhook. So if I'm here and Greg gets the underhook on me, what I like to do here is I don't want to do an overhook. Like, a lot of people, using this overhook position is good if we were like wrestling and he was getting up. But if he's still on the side, I like to put my hand on his hip right here, and then I'm going to start picking my leg up right over here so my knee comes out. All right, so it's relatively easy to do. I just come here, I'll just start backing up. If he starts getting up to his knees, I'll bring my knee up and block him and threaten the mount here, which he may start backing his hips up, and then now I can do my back step. My knee touches the mat. I lift my hips, I sit on top of his hip, and then I back step around, underhooking the leg. All right, so let's actually turn right over here. Let's scoot back. So as you see, Greg is now locking his legs up, making it kind of tough. I'm still holding the leg, almost like I'm going to attack leg locks, and we'll probably go over some basic attacks in a minute, but we're going to first look for the passes here. So what does Greg want to do here? He wants to frame on my lower back, and then he wants to start getting his knee out. If he can get his knee all the way out, he's going to recover guard or possibly take my back. So what I want to do, I'm going to treat this the same way, but I want to get my elbow in that far armpit. So while controlling this leg, either underhooking or underhooking the leg here, I'm going to start, while he's framing here, I'm going to start looking to get my elbow to the inside and across. Now I'm going to control the top leg, walk his bottom knee down, and scoot my hips back. I'm basically treating this the exact same way. It looks the same, but I have the opposite leg. Normally my top leg would be trapped in the half guard. This time my bottom leg is. So now I just do the opposite. I put my shin right against his knee, right over here, and I'm going to use that to extend the leg. Then I can step on his knee, and my hips are back. I'm sitting like this with my head forward, my hips all the way back. So I have like a really wide base. Then I just take my hand, blocking his hip, go to my knees, looking for his neck, and pinning him down. All right, so let's do it from this side. Let's get in this one. No, you're going to do it on this side.
Yep.
Good. So from here, he's going to get the underhook. I'm going to block, point my knee out, I put it down on the floor, and then I lift my hips and sit on top. And then I come over here. Notice when I came to the other side, my hand is posted on the mat. If you get to the other side and immediately hug while I'm doing this, while I'm backstepping, he can always push me away, and then sometimes there's a scramble and he may get up. Keeping someone down is all about your hips, right? So if I'm here, if I have his leg, have my hand posted. If Greg tries to wrestle up, all I have to do is lift my hips up. He can't get up. If I'm on my elbow and he goes to get up and I try to lift my hips up, I'm only going to get so far and then he may scramble to the top position. So you're going to want to post your hand and play from here. When he tries to fight up, all I have to do is lift my hips and maintain the position until I can get my elbow right over here. Let's spin around. Now I'm going to control the top leg. I'm going to start backing up until I can bring my other leg inside, stepping on his knee, blocking, and then I look for his neck. Nice and tight. And controlling. So that's actually an important thing to learn, is posting your hand and understanding that this is not a position that just because you went to the position, you're going to absolutely keep someone down. You have to be ready for the person to wrestle up. Mm-hmm. Let's do that one more time. Right here, he underhooks, I post, and I come out. Then I put my knee, so I go to back step, controlling the leg. Now let's spin around this way. If Greg goes to try to get up, I use my hand and keep my hips up to make sure he's down. Eventually I'm going to get my elbow in the armpit, and then I start coming back. Sometimes I'll step directly on his knee. If his knee is too close that I can't step on it, I'm just going to put my shin in front of his knee and then start pushing it down until I can get the hip. Now I'm going to pass, controlling the head, controlling the hip, go to my toes, and we hold the position. I think in no-gi this is a really good pass because you don't always have like the ability to control people's pants, people's sleeves, and secure the pass.
Yeah, it's also one of the better ways to stop the guy from scrambling out. Like even me, like coming from a wrestling background, like I feel like I can explode on you, but the moment you hold that leg, I can't really go anywhere.
Yeah, I think in no-gi, because it is heavily wrestling influenced, people wrestle up. Mm-hmm. They come up with a single leg, they get the underhook, come up with a single leg. I think that's the main way in most tournaments in no-gi divisions. That's how people are scoring, you know?
Yeah, it's also infamously hard to score in tournaments because you really got to have the guy flat, have control, and hold it for a full 3 seconds.
Exactly. So you need to start adding other positions. So reverse half guard is a really good one to add. Of course, passing the side control is great. You know, you get your 3 points and you have good, nice, tight control position. But I think reverse half guard can be used very well effectively if taking the back. So we're going to work on that and why we are unable to pass the guard and what we can do to counter that, to either repass or we're going to look to take the back. So let's look at the back take. It's going to look like this. Same thing. He's got the underhook, so I end up sliding my knee out, back step, and then we're here. So let's spin. Here, let's actually move back a little bit. So we have room. Okay, so if Greg is flat and I'm able to come here, I'm going to do the exact move. Now, a lot of times when I first get here, he's all the way on the side. See how his back is off the mat? And that's going to be very difficult for me to flatten him at this point. If I start coming across, he may start framing on my lower back, and I have to keep in mind where his knee is. Anytime his knee is inside of my outside knee, so if my knee's in here, I'm fairly safe. But when his knee gets lower than mine, I'm in danger of getting reversed or getting my back taken. So what I like to do is when I notice his knee is getting too low, I'm going to buy myself time and I'm going to wrap my arm around his head and around his arm. And I'm going to start coming back this way until I can get my knee, instead of my knee up, I'm going to put it on the floor right next to his hip. And I come here. Now, I'm going to look to hug his waist all the way underneath because he's probably like trying to shrimp out anyway, so I'm going to be able to get underneath his waist. Now I'm going to drag him this way as I step over. As I step over, this hand that since is around his arm, I'm going to hook his neck. Now I pull his head up and fall to the same side head. And now I can put hooks in. Sometimes I can go right into a rear naked choke. I might have to move back so we go.
Yeah, run off camera there.
So we're here. I put my knee through, back step, and we're playing here. Greg starts framing, he's on his side, he's shrimping. I'm still going to reach across, but I feel like I'm not going to be able to start flattening him out. So I'm going to wrap around his head right over here. My hand is going to come here. I would like to hug underneath. Also, my knee can't be too high, actually. If I allow my knee to get too deep, I won't end up taking his back. He's going to be a little bit more on my back. So I'm going to want to make sure I turn my knee downward so it's in front of his hip. And now I'm going to look for his hip, and I'm going to drag him up. Usually, if I pull him this way, Greg is going to do the opposite. He's going to start pulling, and then I follow him. I bring my knee down, pulling him across like an arm drag. I pull this across, and I fall. And now, if I'm able to connect my hands, great. If not, I can still seatbelt and start putting in my other hook and take his back. So it's a little scrambly. It looks like a big scramble. But if you control that far hip, you should be able to keep the position. Let's get those details one more time. A lot of small details to make this work. Underhook. I come to the other side. He starts framing on me. I reach across, but then I get in front of his head. Look. I start dragging my knee down and looking for his hip. I pull up, and then I sit. As I sit, I bring my knee under his back so he can't flatten out. This hand is just a hook. Now as I drag across like an arm drag, I drag and fall. I fall onto one side. Hopefully I'll connect my hands and choke. If not, seatbelt. So as you see, like the idea of the reverse half guard is about like flattening the person out. It's not so easy to flatten the person out. Okay, so that's one option. Opening that knee is very important. A lot of people forget about this knee and they just try to take the back otherwise, and then they expose themselves. But if you bring the knee out, you can have other details, other options. All right, another good position. Same thing. We're going to do the same move. Person is not giving us the same position, and instead of going for the back in that big movement, we're going to look to flatten them out in like using an arm triangle. So he's immediately turning into me, coming this way. I reach across, and for whatever reason, I feel like I can't find his head. All right, and he's starting to push me down. Okay, so at this point, I take this hand, and now I bring it inside, and I put it on the mat right over here. Come up on your elbow, Greg, just so they can see where my elbow is. It's got to be underneath his armpit. So go back down. So we're in this position. Now I'm going to treat this the same way. I still got to get this knee out. Right now I see my knee is deep in his half guard. So I'm going to hold his leg, and I drag my knee out right over here. And as you see, I'm already stepping over his knee. Now, because my elbow's here and my head is wrapped around his shoulder, I'm going to wrap my arm around his head. I connect my hands, and now I can start attacking the arm triangle. Now I'm using that to pass because if you get to that 3/4 mount with the head and arm control, you're going to get a nice easy guard pass. I post my hand, come to the other side, underhooking his leg. Let's spin. So I'm looking to get inside. He gets to his side. I notice that we're getting a little bit low, so I immediately put my elbow here and I just rest my head here. Sometimes people may be worried about a guillotine. Now, if my knee is super deep, I can get caught in the guillotine. As I come up, I can get caught. This is why it's very important to get your knee out. So as soon as I come here, I pull my knee out. Now, if he goes for the guillotine, I'm blocking his hip from turning the way he wants to be. He needs to be all the way here. But with my knee right in front of his hip, let's scoot out a little bit this way. No, the other way. With my knee right here, it blocks him from being able to get in a full arm triangle. And then I can counter with the arm triangle right here. Stepping over. Then I just drop my head, turning my hip down like I want to look at him. And then I start putting pressure into an arm triangle. Let's look at that again. Let's move back. We always...
It's creeping up on the camera.
Yeah. Let's start in the black area right here.
Okay.
Because this move...
There's a lot of movement.
It's a lot of movement. So, I'm hooking, my hand is posted, I'm looking to get my elbow here. He is turning into me, he's shirking, so I drop my elbow onto the mat right under in the inside of his arms. I hold his leg in place and I pull my leg out. And now I wrap my arm around his head. Stepping over his hip, connecting my hands. And then from here I can just bring myself go to mount first. If you feel like that's a safer point, but getting to there. So go like forgetting about putting that elbow in the armpit and putting it in front of the chest is really big for finishing this type of pass. Let's see. So those are the main moves. So now we have like rolling back takes and leg locks, kimuras.
You actually, the one thing I was going to say, you covered a lot of the core principles.
Yeah.
But everything off that just builds off those 2 or 3 moves, whether it's a pre-counter or like you're just countering and kind of chaining off everything. So
yeah, they all kind of work together. You should always be going for the first basic one because that's the fundamental move. That's how you pass right to side control. If the person is not giving you the reaction to do the other moves, you shouldn't bother with them. It's like focusing on a back take when the person's back is flat on the mat, you're going to lose the position. But if they're flat on the mat, you pass.
Yeah.
When they start getting on their side and start reversing the position, that's where you can start either exposing their back or getting that head and arm, which I love. All right. So leg locks, we'll touch very briefly on this, okay? So, because I know a lot of us watching are probably going to be beginners and may not have a wide range of moves. I see something in the chat. Miss Lauren R. So is reverse strength stronger no-gi or regular half guard? Is it just different? It's just different. I actually consider the reverse half guard more of a counter. You know, it's a counter. It's another position to use when the person is on bottom is beating you to the underhook. Or maybe the top person wants to attack leg locks, which is kind of another main use of the reverse half guard. People like to back step. So let's go over I'm going to go over just the basic, it's IBJJF legal leg locks for now, just because those are the ones that are always going to be legal depending on no matter what rule set. And yeah, they're good ones to start with because if you can learn to finish a knee bar or a toe hold, adding the more intricate heel hooks that sometimes slip out will be a lot easier. So if we're here, you're down, everything's the same. I'm countering the underhook here. I'm coming up, and let's scoot in this way. All right. So Greg is figure fouring. Maybe for whatever reason I'm unable to get my elbow in the armpit, or I'm just looking for the legs instead. All right. So if I want to attack his legs now, I have to get see right now I'm sitting on the floor, which makes it a lot easier for him to shrimp away and get his leg out. Like if he shrimps, his knee is coming out. You see. So we want to maintain this leg. So what I like to do is I'm gonna come up, lifting his leg up. And I'm going to sit on top. And I take my leg like this, like I curl it in nice and deep. All right, and now to do the knee bar is what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the other foot. I use my elbow right against his shin, and then I strip it. And then you can fall to either side. Sometimes I'll fall to the same side and put the ankle in my armpit, grabbing my own thigh. Figure 4. More common, I think, most people prefer to fall to the other side, so they'll hold this in place. They sit. Now I take this leg, tuck it underneath, and then I fall. Now I reach for the heel, put it right next to my head, and then I adjust the pressure using my hips, just like you're doing an arm bar. Like an arm bar, you grab the wrist and the thumb and adjust. This one, we're going to kind of grab the ankle and the heel. Obviously, getting it to the armpit is ideal, but usually when we fall away, it's harder to get that angle. So let's look at that again. Sometimes this can happen from a knee slide too. I didn't mention that. So you may not even be in a half guard. You may be in an open guard, come inside this way, and then Greg immediately comes up, and now the scramble starts. Okay, so let's turn this way. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I block his hip, get higher than him, come to the other side. Now I'm going to take my hand here, but instead of getting low, I'm going to use this to get high and capture both sides of his hip right here. I'm going to come inside. I'm trying to almost touch my heel and my ankle together to make sure his leg doesn't wiggle out. And I'll control it. Now, I'm going to control the foot, and if I want, I can fall towards the same side, figure 4ing my legs, moving the elbow around, and then grabbing my own thigh, like this. Now I can use my hips to finish the arm bar. From the same position, I'll do the knee bar falling the other way. So I do want to sit, pinch my knees together, and then I like to turn my leg, and I'm going to cross my legs. This way, I'm staying tight to his leg, pulling him this way. Grab the foot, use your elbow to strip it, catch the heel and the ankle, and then finish on the leg. The knee bar, okay? If you already know how to do an arm bar, doing a knee bar shouldn't be too foreign to you. Now the toe hold. So the toe hold is like the Kimura of the footlocks, okay? We went over Kimura on one of our other live streams where we went all the details on how to finish it, and we saw how strong of a grip this figure 4 is. And you know, the amount of pressure you can put on someone's shoulder. This is the same thing, but you're actually putting pressure on their knee. So we're going to look at the same position. So I'm here, knee cut. He underhook, I come to the other side. Now I reach across, posting my hand, sitting on top. Now what I would like to do is, maybe he's really hiding his foot and it's hard for me to attack it directly with a knee bar. So what I'm going to look to do, I'm still going to pull his other leg in, and now I'm going to grab the toes. So let's spin this way so they can all see my grip. So his legs are figure forward. I'm going to reach and pull his foot towards me, and I grab the toes as high on the foot as I can. I don't want to grab in the middle where he can easily just turn and curl his foot back and break my grip. I want to come in and close my elbow in. Now I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to dive forward here and figure 4 my legs. And what I want to do is I'm going to reach wrist deep around his ankle till I can grab my own wrist. Now, the power of this is not with the hand that's pushing. Like, I'm not using this strength. I'm using the strength of this. So once my hand is together, I just start pulling with my bottom hand. And obviously, if he straightens out his leg, I'm going to feel like my elbows are separated from my body. I'm going to lose the position. All right. So if I want to finish the submission, I want to start crawling in. If he extends too much, I can always go back because I have his leg dropped. I can go back to the last move. Looking for the knee bar. So sometimes, you know, when you start going for knee bars, you can use the toe hold as a secondary attack. So let's do that one more time. Everything's the same except we're using the toe hold instead. So I knee slide, post, sit, post my hand, I sit on top. He's going to figure 4 his legs, so I'm going to control his other leg, pull it up like this, and I'm going to fall figure 4. This hand is gripping, bending his leg. My other hand wraps around as high on his foot as I can. If I reach too low like this and try to get my figure 4, he's going to be too strong, too much leverage. But if I come nice and high, I get a good strong power. Now I pull everything in. If he extends his legs too much and I start losing it, I start reaching for the heel. Put my elbow behind his heel. Put my hand in the C grip. Grabbing my thigh. If he tries to curl from here, I don't even have to use that much strength to block him. And then I just start using my legs and my hips in a real solid attack. All right, so we actually went over a decent amount right there. So reverse half guard is actually pretty rich position as far as different techniques. They have it in scrambles, so you usually have to start with just one move at a time to understand them, and then eventually you just start going from one move to the next, and then finding the right move for yourself. You know. Let's see. There was one more move I was going to show, which is rolling back takes, which will happen in scrambles, but they're a little technical, so it's a little tough for beginners. But the rolling back take from a reverse half guard is probably like the easiest one to do, in my opinion. A lot of times you'll end up in a rolling back take. The hardest part is understanding how to expose their back so they can't retake your back. So let's look at that one. Last move. I come here. The underhooks. We're here. Now let's kind of scoot that way. Just a little bit more centered. There you go. So for a rolling back take now, what we're going to do is we'll start the same way as my beginning moves, is where I came this way and put my elbow in the armpit, and I'm trying to do some sort of guard pass. And once again, he's framing on my lower back, so I try to do this. I try to put my knee inside, and then I'm going to start pulling my foot, so all he has is my foot. I don't want my shin inside. So I extend, and I come to this position. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hug nice and tight, and I'm going to use this leg to lift my hips up. And see how my foot is only my foot is inside. I don't have my knee. My knee is outside. Now, as I roll, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start lifting his hips onto my stomach. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to curl down like this with both of my legs to lift his hips onto my stomach. My foot should be hooked around. We call this a twister hook. I'll bend his leg more and put my foot hooking around his shin so I can control his leg with just one leg. Now I start reaching for his other arm right here, and I start pulling it onto my chest. All right, so let's turn this way.
So you enjoyed that one.
There you go. So I get to here. I hug his arm, because the basic defense for this is for Greg to get his head as far away as possible. Yeah, exactly. Now it's hard to get this, so I have to control the arm. Then I control the head. Now I don't need a twister hook anymore. I'll use just regular hooks to take his back. So I like to do this real quick, but the essence of the move is the finishing. All right, once you roll, you know, you can start it from all sorts of different scenarios, but once you roll, it's about lifting your hips. So we're here. I make sure that I'm pushing his top knee down, and I get my other leg in front. As soon as his knee comes out, then I'm going to have to change my move. But if I can keep him blocked here, I can still do a rolling back kick. So I extend this leg as I pull my other leg out, and then I'm going to use this leg to come up higher than head. As I come higher, I'm going to dive my head right by his hips, and then I'm going to start pulling his legs on top. You can use, if this leg is in, great. If you lose this leg, you can use this leg, and you're going to extend and bring his hips up, and then I bring the other foot. So that's like, I use my outside leg, then I switch to my inside leg. If I have to, I can feed the foot, so I have my twister hook, and I can control him with one leg. Now I start reaching for his arm. I control the arm, okay? Let's turn this way, 'cause it looks like they've lost us. I can't even tell where the camera is. So I come here, and then I look for the head. Now I don't need this twisted hook anymore. I relax it a little bit so that I can hip escape out and put my top hook in. And then you can play your back game. Let's see. Let's go here. One last time. Let's scoot this way a little bit. So, my shin in front, hand here, control the top leg, lift your hips and pull. Alright, I start picking them up. If I don't have this leg in the right position, you can use this other leg to drive down and lift his hips up. Take your foot and hook it right behind his knee. Use the other leg to feed it behind. Now I find his arm. Alright? Now, if for him to do this counter, he has to get his whole upper body away. I control him right here. Then I look to capture the head. Let go of the twister hook. And we take the back. Fancy rolling back take. So we did a lot today. We went over our basic pass to side control. We went over our scrambling back take where we step over. The head and arm position. Then we worked on how to attack the legs as well as doing the final one, which is the rolling back take, which honestly I think we see that more often at highest levels competition. Why? Because guys are avoiding, they're trying to retake your back. So if you don't know how to do a rolling back take, you're going to be a little bit of a, your opponent's going to have an advantage on you, especially at the higher levels, you know. You see a lot with Gordon Ryan using it in positions that you don't think he's going to take the back because he's just always diving on you. He counter wrestles into it really, really well. So real strong position from there. All right, so guys, hope you guys enjoyed this one. This was our reverse half guard clinic. I'm trying to do little clinics of a lot of the major positions we've been using before, you know, while we're not training and stuff in person. Once we do start training though, guys, I want you using these videos, go back to them. You're going to see them that this is the stuff we teach in class. And if you review the details from these videos, I think it'll help you guys a lot. All right. Until next time, make sure on Friday we're going to do yoga. We're doing, Lauren's going to be teaching putting us through some groin stretches, which is real good for your guard. And then back to it hopefully next week. All right. See you guys in the next one.